In today's episode, we're going to be doing some Dollar Tree crafts as well as a couple of thrift flips, sharing some fun painting techniques. Welcome into my craft room. I'm so grateful all of you stopped in to visit with me today. All right, friends, now let's get crafting. I have seen some inspiration online for terracotta pots that have candles in them, and they charge so much. So we're going to make it with the Dollar Tree supplies that have come out this fall season. You're going to need however many terracotta pots you want. We're going to take some foam, some of these LED candle battery operated lights, and some moss. Start by cutting the foam down to size, and I'm going to use some E6000 and some hot glue and put that down into the terracotta pots. Then we're going to take the stand and we're going to glue the stand base for the light onto that piece of foam. Make sure all the foam pieces are the exact same height, otherwise your candles will differ in height when you put the candles in. Go ahead and glue those down, and then you're going to take some more foam and pack it around the sides of that first initial piece. That way so the moss has something nice to hold on to, and when you add in the moss, it is going to create this beautiful farmhouse look for the fall season. I can imagine 5 or 6 of these lined up down the center of a long table for a dinner party, and then you just put pumpkins all around it. This could be such a gorgeous elevated look for the fall season, and you can see here the effort was minimal to make this look. Now, I was thinking about these terracotta pots and I wanted to make them look, I don't know, a little more substantial because they are just terracotta pots, and I thought the idea of bringing in a beautiful chestnut brown onto the bottom part of the pot would really elevate that look. So I went over all 3 of them. I probably should have painted the pots first, but I didn't come to this decision until after I had glued everything in. So if you do like the brown paint, just paint the pots first and then put everything in. And then at this point, I decided to give it more of a fall, cozy farmhouse feel to it. So I'm going to come in and very lightly dry brush on some white paint to add some depth and some character to these pots. And the finished result is just absolutely so beautiful and minimal work. This DIY is a little more labor intensive, so it's a little more advanced, I will say, for a longtime crafter, but anybody honestly could try it because it's such a fun DIY craft to try for the fall. I'm going to be taking one of these 3D wreaths and 2 different types of beads from the Dollar Tree craft sections. So I'm going to go ahead by taking that wire round form and I'm going to push it down to replicate the shape of a pumpkin. As I did that, the wires went ahead and started popping, which is what I want because we're going to open those up and put beads on each one. Now because there's that middle joint, you're going to have to cut it on both sides. So it was perfect that it snapped where it did, and then I went ahead and cut on the next side of it to be able to get beads on both, because you can see that it's got that little nub in the middle to bring them all together. So once I had the first side cut, I went ahead and strung on my beads, and this part didn't really matter how I did it, but I did do a round one and then a long one. Then when I got to the point where I was ready to bring it back together, I found the perfect size bead, made sure it was right, and then I pulled everything back, and then I added some hot glue in place. And the trick to making sure you get a nice good hold on it is making sure you hold it in place until the hot glue completely sets. You could also put on just a tiny little dot of some E6000, that might help it lock in even better, but I had it work really well with my hot glue where I didn't have any issues. You can see here I just added my hot glue, and then I'm going to hold it in place so that the wire really locks inside of the bead and it becomes much stronger and the bond is really great. So then I'm going to move over to the other side and I'm going to cut it. I will say cutting this wire is a little bit tricky. It could just be because my pliers are really old, my wire cutters, but I always like to just wiggle it back and forth until it snaps, but be careful doing that because you don't want to bend the wire too much because it can make it hard to put the beads on. Now at this point I ended up having everything covered in beads thanks to Calvin. He actually came in and helped me with some of the beads on some of these loops, so I was grateful for his help. And this part was really fun. We both enjoyed doing it, and it was funny trying not to have beads fling all over the place as we were wiring them on. We had a good laugh doing this project together. And then once you've got everything all glued in place and everything back onto the original wire pieces in the middle where it comes together like this shape, I'm going to go ahead and take those two wires pointing inward into this now pumpkin shape, and I'm going to bend them up and out to make sure I lock all of these bands together. So once I've got that wire nice and tightened and I got my pumpkin shape that I was going for, I went ahead and took some hot glue and made sure I locked everything into place so it was nice and secure and it stayed the round shape of a pumpkin, because you can see naturally it kept wanting to pull back. So I'm just making sure that the hot glue is being held in place while it's drying. Once I was done with that, I went ahead and took one of these wood rounds from the Dollar Tree craft section. I'm going to take some of the wood filler, the putty, go ahead and put that in there to make sure that it has a nice look. I don't want to have that hole there because I don't want anyone to see that part. Now I'm going to take my countersink drill bit. I'm going to drill 2 holes, and this is going to help everything lay flat on the bottom when I stand this up on a table. So I went ahead and did that, and now I'm going to do 2 drills inside of those countersink holes, and this is going to allow the wire to go down and around without it causing any issues of the wire making this wood round kind of tilt back and forth, because there's, you know, an extra added layer to the bottom. So it's going to really help it lock into place with the pumpkin on top, and the wire is going to be concealed underneath it, and it's all going to sit flat. This is the part I think is probably the most complicated out of it and probably a little more advanced, but again, this was such a fun project to do. So if you have anyone that works well with tools, this would be a fun project to do together. And then at this point, once the wire was nice and tight, I came back in with my hot glue and just locked everything into place, making sure it was really strong and secure. And you can see here that I flipped it over and it's doing a great job at this point, not moving around. I took it outside and first spray painted it black, and then I spray painted it cream, and that was to help stop the bleeding of the hot pink, purple, and yellow beads. Those colors kept wanting to bleed through, and doing the black first, then the cream really helped it. And then I came back in with some orange, and I wanted to make sure you could still see that cream coming through. I really liked how that looked. And now I'm going to take a twig that I picked up from a twig pack at the Dollar Tree in their floral section. I drilled a hole and wired it to the top. Once the top was on, I went ahead and added some more hot glue, because why not? It helps lock everything in place. And then I gave a nice coat to the bottom of the stand, and I did a little bit more of dry brushing with the cream and some brown on the orange to take down some of that orange so it's not so intense. And then last I added on some leaves, a couple bows, and then the finishing touch was this darling little white star button. How many times have you seen wood pieces like this at thrift stores or the Habitat for Humanity stores? Well, I picked one up and I thought, you know what? I'm going to give this thing a really pretty updated farmhouse look. So I took off that outdated lace that just honestly looked kind of dusty. I think this used to be one of those things where you have the windows between the kitchen and the living room or family room. I think this was one of those divider doors that was in there because it had some hinge stuff on it. So I went ahead and took it outside, spray painted it white, and now I'm going to add in some updated fabric to the back side of it. And I personally love a good, clean, finished job on projects because then it just makes it look more high-end and it looks like it came from a store. So after I came in and I glued in my fabric, I'm going to use my rotary blade just to cut off the fabric to clean up all those lines so it's in there nice and snug and it's looking really clean and tidy. And then at this point, I went ahead and put on 2 handles onto the bottom part of this door frame. I thought this would be really pretty to add that black farmhouse detailing in there. Now I'm going to come in and rough up the sides just a little bit to give it that farmhouse flair, and then add a hook so I can put up any kind of sign or wreath that I want on it. We're going to grab one of these tag signs from the Dollar Tree. They carry these all year long. This one I had on hand from Valentine's Day. Go ahead and remove the bow and the twine that's on it. Once you've got that all off and cleaned up, I put fabric on the back of mine because I just like a clean look. Go ahead and paint the other side white. And then I'm going to put down some washi tape because I love using washi tape whenever I'm doing painted lines. I feel like I get a nice clean line. I'm going to come on with some mustard yellow, and I actually ended up doing about 4 coats of it just because it is a little opaque when you're putting it on and it takes a little bit of time to build up that color. But this wasn't a hard process because I have a heat gun. So I went ahead and painted that 4 times, removed that washi tape, and now I'm going to come in with these wheat picks that I get from the Dollar Tree. They have a whole bunch of different color variations. So I went ahead and grabbed an amber, greenish tone, and then a wheat light tan color. I'm now going to take a beaded garland. I cut off a long strand of it, and I'm twisting that into a circle because we're going to make a wheat wreath. Try to say that 3 times. That was kind of a mouthful. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just twist those wheat sticks on, and I'm going to go all the way around the whole wreath just twisting these on. This is a super easy process to do. You will struggle with the very ends of these pieces of wire, but if you do, just get some pliers and you just twist them down in, and it makes it really easy to do this part. This is super pretty to do, and making this yourself is going to save you a ton of money. I love making little mini wreaths like this for signs, and you'll see in a second how they all come together. And then to tie it all back in and make sure it's nice and secure, I came back in with another strand of beads and I just wove that around all of the different wheat sticks, and it just looks so pretty for fall. Now I'm going to take this stencil that I have from the Dollar Tree. I really loved the font on this one because I want to have 2 different fonts. I love typography. So what I do is I just take my stencil brush. I'm going to tap, tap, tap until I get the color that I desire. I'm using a chestnut brown, and then I always clean my stencils immediately because it just makes for easy cleanup for later, and then you don't have any smudging or bleeding. I always dry each letter in between when I'm doing lettering stencils so I don't have any smudges going on. And then once I've got the word harvest down on the yellow, I think the brown and the mustard yellow together are just so pretty. I'm now going to come in with this Studio R12 stencil. I love this old-fashioned farmhouse market stencil. I'm going to use the part at the bottom where it says bread and pies. I thought that was really cute with the word harvest. And I'm just going to go ahead and tap, 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 bring in that color. And when I lift it up, oh, it's just so pretty. I had so much fun making this project. Now I want it to look like an old farmhouse sign, so I'm going to do some light distressing with a tan color. I'm going to come all over the white and a little bit over that mustard yellow. Now at this point we can go ahead and start to add on our wreath. Add lots of hot glue to make sure you adhere it on there well. Go ahead and just press that down on there. And once it's in place, I'm now going to come in with a beautiful bow for fall. I just doubled up my bows. I've got a houndstooth orange and white, as well as a burlap big ribbon. And then at the very top, to clean up that little hole, I'm just going to add a half wooded bead. Now, I saw this Cornucopia art piece and I loved all of the detail of the fruit and the vegetables in the Cornucopia basket, but I did not like the colors. It's just too dark for my home. I would never use these colors in my home, so it's just not my thing, you know? So I decided to take it outside and I spray painted it a tan taupey color. This brought it to life. It made it so much brighter. Now I wanted to keep that wood look to the basket, so I'm coming in with a dark brown that has a little bit of a burgundy undertone to it. I tapped the paint color down into the basket weaving, and then I used a wipey to wipe away the top surface because I want to use a lighter brown on the top to create that depth. Now at this point, once it was dry with my heat gun, I'm going to come in and very lightly with the tiniest bit of brown paint on my brush, lightly, and I emphasize lightly, I'm dry brushing on some of that brown depth in there with that tan. That's going to make everything start to rise and lift because you're going to have that tan in there with the brown. It's going to start bringing forward that color definition in the shapes and the sizes of these things in this basket. I'm also going to use some of the brown up on the basket on the part that I wiped it away so that it looks brown completed with the dark and the light. And now I'm coming in with some white paint and I am very lightly tapping the very tops of the fruits and the vegetables to bring forth the different dimensions on them. This is going to really make them bright and stand out. And then last, I'm just going to do a little bit more brown dry brushing and you've got a beautiful piece of artwork for the fall. For this project, we are going to be taking this super popular witch form hat. I have seen many people trying to find these, and I've seen a lot of friends also using them and turning them into hats. But we're going to turn ours into a cornucopia flower front door decor piece. Or it could also be like a bundle of flowers, however you want to look at it. But we are going to take it and cut it apart. We're going to take off the rim of the hat. We don't need that part. And then it's going to want to break right here on this piece. If it does, it's not a big deal. You're going to just take some twine, glue it, and wrap it around until it holds those two pieces together. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to be covered up by the burlap, which we're going to be using next. So now at this point, go ahead and take out your burlap and you're going to just start gluing it around to create that cornucopia look. And the cool thing about this wire, you can also bend it and shape it and twist it however you want to make it look where it's more of a curved look. I just kept mine straight, so this is why I'm saying that maybe it looks like a bundle of flowers too for the fall time. It's just whatever your preference is and what you think, but I was going for a cornucopia. I like how it turns out. I'm going to take this really pretty mesh brown color and I wrapped it all around to give it that woodsy look on it. This part is so quick, so fast to create it. This project seriously took me maybe like less than 10 minutes to do, and it's so beautiful at the end to put out on your front door or somewhere in your house if you want to hang it up. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to stuff it with the florals that we like. So many pretty florals this year, and I had so much fun mixing and matching all of these different colors, bringing them all together to create a really soft farmhouse look to my florals. I didn't want anything harsh in here. I wanted it to look like we would see natural fall colors out there, where it was a lot of creamy brown tones and some ivories, and I'm just bringing it all together until I get the look that I want in my florals, making sure that I cut apart the flowers versus trying to just stick the whole thing in as a unit where you see that plastic stem. You can actually see one over to the right by my twine. I don't ever like putting them in like that. I like to separate them. Then we're going to take that really cute burlap bow that they had where it's got this pattern on it, and we're going to just glue down the first one, and then on the second one we're going to cut off the tails and we're going to add that right onto the bow to make it look more full, and then we're going to bring on the two tails and glue those into place to make a really pretty bow to complete the look. Craft supplies can come from anywhere. Home decor that you're not quite in love with anymore, that you have in your own home, or Dollar Tree supplies, wherever you might grab them. I hope you enjoyed these tips and tricks to decorate your home with your crafted items for this fall season. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to click the subscribe button if you are new and haven't clicked it yet. And until the next episode, bye friends.